My name's Steve. I'm a pastor of H2O Church downtown. You got a chance to hear my co-pastor John Beaver last week. And so I'm excited to be here today. I'm going to kind of stick pretty close to my notes because I've got a lot to cover and there's a lot of stuff that goes on inside of me as I talk through this. But today is an honor to be with you guys talking about shame. I'm honored that you're here because I'm amongst men who have committed either to yourself or to the Lord or to a buddy that you wanted to get up early and get down here and be part of iron sharpening iron. And it's an honor to be part of that with you. I believe that because of today, the kingdom will be built. Maybe some of my path will feel familiar to you. If so, I offer hope. There may be some of you who will hear this and feel less safe around me because some of my path stirs up or triggers things in you. To those who feel less safe, if there are some, I apologize ahead of time. So many times I wish my story was different. I wish it was nicer. I wish it was lighter. Sometimes I feel that though this isn't true, that John's talk last week about vulnerability, that was my only struggle, that's a nice struggle. How come I couldn't have those nice struggles instead of the struggles that I have? Struggles that don't embarrass me. Struggles that might not embarrass you when you hear them. How come? The truth is, it is my story, and I can't change that, but I can seek to understand it. And I can seek a new path and perhaps offer my story to those who are in their own dark path. My story deals with addiction. Addiction that started before me in my family line, and it impacted me. Growing up in a family with addiction, there was an unstated motto: don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. Don't talk about the addiction, the behavior, the causes, the wounds. Walk around those things as if there is an elephant in the room. Don't trust that behaviors are predictable. The one who is designed to build you up and care for you might be the one wounding. And it's certainly more safe not to feel. Because if you let yourself feel the hurt, the aloneness, the fear, the on-edgedness, it's too much. Especially for that childish heart you have that hopes for love and connection and being valued. So don't talk and don't trust and don't feel. And that leaves you heartless, dead inside, numb. Which in my life is usually because there's so much going on. Too much for my heart to know how to process it all. Too much aloneness, too much pain, and longing for a way to deaden the pain. Because as much as you tell yourself it's easy not to feel, you still feel the longing for it to be different. You long to be known for who you are. You long to be accepted for who you are. You long for someone to care enough about you to want to know more about your heart and your hopes and your fears. You long to matter. But in that atmosphere of deadness, you know you don't. And that's painful. And you long for something to take away that pain. And you use whatever you find that medicates that pain. That's one of the key reasons that addiction gets passed down. Even if the addiction isn't super obvious, addiction in my home wasn't identified until I was in high school and college. But it had already done its damage. It damaged with shame. And this is a series on shame, sex, and freedom. Today, after I share some of my story, we're going to turn a corner and begin to deal head on with what do we do with shame? What's a healthier path and how do I find it? So let's just start with 3 questions. What is shame? What does shame do? And what causes shame to grow? And what shame does? The insidious thing about this lie we believe is what it does. Since I'm too messy, those people who have their lives all figured out wouldn't want to be around me, would they? Since I'm too sinful, those people who seem to have figured out this Christ-following thing and are mostly sanctified already, they're beyond my reach. Since I'm too worthless, Why would I offer anything about me to others? Because rejection that might happen is too risky. I don't need more evidence of my lack of worth. Why go looking for it? So shame keeps me alone. It isolates me. And in that isolation, it keeps us from help. Not risking. In not risking, I lose the chance that there might be something or somebody who can help me change. And since that never happens, it just confirms it. See, I'm not worth their time. I'm always alone and no one knows me. So shame puts love in prison. Shame reinforces aloneness, isolation, one-downness, and it causes us to lose hope. Since I'm too messy and move away from pain and away from healthy people, I can tend to move towards unhealthy people. And when I share my pain with unhealthy people, I stand a good chance of rejection or unhealthy mutual codependence, things that tend to reinforce that there's no real path forward that brings hope. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change, says Brene Brown. It corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. Hope is extinguished in shame. And then there's those thoughts we have, okay, so God's real. He really accomplishes miracles in people's lives. I hear their stories. I don't think they're lying. It's just that it doesn't work in my story. I've tried. Maybe in unhealthy ways with unhealthy people, but I've tried to move out of shame and I've just received more shame. And it's not like my faith has been shattered, though that certainly could happen. It's that my faith ceases to function in a personal way. God's all-powerful except when it comes to me and my heart story. I'm too something for God to redeem. And faith feels far away. Shame kills faith. So it puts love in prison, it extinguishes hope, and it kills faith. Number 3, what causes shame to grow? In talking about what causes shame to grow, I want to open a window of how it grew in my life. I want to tell you a story. I wrote it about 8 years ago as I was grappling with how to share some of my story with others in the counseling program. And honestly, this is kind of where I want to back out this morning. I'm not asking for your sympathy. I'm just letting you know what's going on inside of me. You may not like my writing style. You might not like the content. Whatever, there's that part of me that feels exposed because it's my work, and there's that part of me that it feels exposed because of what's exposed. I share this story full aware of those feelings and choosing to live differently than where shame leads. I read this story to my church's H2O leadership team, and they encouraged me to note ahead of time that the story opens thousands of years ago in what is now California in a place called the La Brea Tar Pits, a place where right there on the surface is this welling up of oily tar that's partially hardened. It starts with the central figure of the story, a saber-toothed tiger named Bartholomew. I also read this story to my son, who encouraged me to say that this story deals with addiction, and not just addiction in general, but specifically pornography and sexual addiction. Thanks, son. But I offer those introductory thoughts and ask you in your mind's eye to move with me to a time where tall grasses surrounded this acrid scene, and the most significant things in life were about the hunt and being able to bring home food for the family. Blows, echoes, and the pits. A story in 3.5 acts. Act 1, the pits. Bartholomew was hungry, no ravenous. He could smell it near, the hope that would fill his emptiness. He paced nearer and began to feel the heat. His nostrils stung with the acrid smoke, but another enticing odor lingered as well and beckoned him on. Wary, he placed one padded foot on the warm, spongy surface. It was firm. He crept a whisker closer, the dark tuft of his tail flicking a fly from his tawny ear. Another paw on the black, and the urge to pounce was upon him. He could see the prey, struggling, calling out, "Dinner," relief food for the pride, a prize worth the hunt, and the gnawing hunger would disappear. He gathered himself, sinew coiled with power, and he leapt. And he knew the thrill as his 10-inch saber-tooth-like tooth slashed the throat of his struggling prey. All would be well. His family would eat. But what was wrong? The firm blackness sang its lying, clinging song, blackening his feet as he struggled to pull his prey to firmer ground, but it grabbed and sucked. With a lash, he sent hot blackness flying, but also clinging, weighing, stinking. Suddenly, the prey lay forgotten, the hunger less clear. Then fear and fury. A mighty lunge propelled his muscular body up, and free. But the clinging blackness hung heavy. No, not free. Deeper in the black mucky tar. The struggle continued, cunning strength against sucking darkness. It seemed at times the more he struggled, the more the darkness clung. Exhaustion covered him, and the sucking somehow eased. Still trapped, he rested in the blackness. But that too was no good. Rested with doubled efforts, the fight began anew, and the blackness took more ground. Fury and fear propelled him up and back, and as he fell, he knew. He understood in some deep primal place the end of his story was near. The force of his landing took the last of his breath. The fight was gone. He resigned to pain. Pain from his gnawing hunger picked this strange time to return. Pain from the humiliation of a failed hunt. Pain from a family hungry for what they longed for him to bring them. Pain in his back from his harsh, sharp landing. Act 2, blows and the echoes. It had been a good night, a great night. My buddy Matt and I had a blast skating to the latest and greatest We Are Family by Sister Sledge and Rod Stewart's Do You Think I'm Sexy. Topping it off, we both found cute girls to skate with during the couple's skate. What a great night. Coming out, we were laughing and joking. Passing the low-slung Monte Carlo only caught our attention because of the huge woofers blasting Julio Iglesias. The monstrous boxes spilled out of the dark interior, attached only by thick umbilical cords that coursed with flashing lights and deep bass. I looked at Matt and rolled my eyes. I felt the first blow like a rock that hit above my left ear. Turning, I found myself surrounded by angry arms and faces. The taunt, "What you have to say now?" came from somewhere. I felt confusion and fear. The dark night hid our little crowd from most people coming from the skating rink, so little help could be expected. "I didn't say anything," fell on angry ears. They had heard my eyes. The next blows hit my left cheek and right eye. My sinewy swim team body didn't handle the blows well. The next two from behind brought me to the ground, where I felt the kicks as I sought to protect myself. Time slowed down. I don't know how long that year lasted, but there was a time for a lot to flow through my mind. The sharpest pain came not from the kicks or the rising lumps on my head, but the echoes. I already knew I didn't matter much in life. Dad's absence at swim meets and marching bands screamed silently, "Not worth my time." Mom's award-winning garden a priority over Honor Society awards and my solo at the concert. I already knew I didn't matter much. The raining blows just echoed that fact. Somewhere in the haze, I realized Matt wasn't on the ground with me. He wasn't anywhere around, but that didn't surprise me either. I already knew that the pain in my life only mattered to me. What surprised me was a white glare from the car that finally split up my attackers. A cry of, "Hey, what's going on?" seemed out of place. Suddenly, the blows stopped. As I struggled up, the shame of being beat up closed in. It's emasculating. I didn't want to talk to the arm that was helping me up. I just wanted to get away. Somehow I had to find Matt in his car. There it was, with Matt in it too. And his cry, "Hey, what happened? I thought you got away too," found its place with all the other lies running around in my mind. So what do? Do you tell your distant dad? Do you crawl into your aloof mom's lap? Do you confess your shame to your lying friend? No. You huddle in your aloneness. You wrap your shame around you tight and find the comfort you can, however you've learned to deal. You put the pain away in a quiet little corner of your heart and you learn to keep secrets. The secret glossy pages hidden in a hard-sided suitcase in the attic promised comfort and a restoration of masculinity. Act 3, back at the pits. I was hungry, no ravenous. I could smell it near, the hope that would fill my emptiness. I paced nearer and began to feel the heat. My nostrils stung with the acrid smoke of shame, but the lure of relief beckoned me on. Wary, I placed one foot on the padded carpet we had laid down in the attic a year before, my knees sinking gently into the warm, spongy surface. It was firm. I crept a whisker closer, the only distraction a fly near my ear. Cautiously, I thought, no, not today. I can just watch TV. But the urge was too real. I could see my prey calling out relief, food for the heart, a prize worth the hunt, and the gnawing hunger would disappear. I gathered myself, sinew coiled with power, and leapt, and I knew the thrill. All would be well. My aloneness would be gone. But what was wrong? The firm blackness had sung its lying, clinging song, blackening my feet as I struggled to pull to firmer ground, but it grabbed and sucked. With a lash, I sent hot blackness flying. I will never again open that case. I'll throw them away. I will. But two, the clinging, weighing, stinking. As day turned to day, what remained was the shame, then fear and fury. A mighty fight. Time disappeared, lost in the sweep of a battle, not just weeks or months, but years. At times, with a mighty effort, I was propelled up, and free, never to look again or sink into the blackness. But the clinging struggle continued, cunning strength against sucking darkness. It seemed at times the more I struggled, the more the darkness clung. Exhaustion covered me, and the sucking somehow eased. Still trapped, I at times rested in the blackness, resigned to it. But that too was no good. Rested with doubled efforts, the fight began anew, and the blackness took more ground. Finally, the fury and fear propelled me up, and back. And as I fell, I knew, I understood in some deep primal place, the end of my story was near. The force of the landing took the last of my breath. The fight was gone. I resigned to pain. Pain from my gnawing hunger picked this strange time to return. Pain from the humiliation of a secret so dark. Pain from a family hungry for what they longed for me to bring them. Pain from the harsh, sharp landing. Act 3.5, back to Bartholomew. The dull pain throbbed, a not-so-subtle message that it wasn't over. But the pain brought a new awareness. He had hit something hard. The pain was from contact. It was different from before. It was something that didn't give, a solidness that had held him from sinking entirely into the darkness. There was no fight left, but there was a tree that had fallen across the pit. Smeared, too, with the tar from his struggle, yet white bark shone through in patches, and there was hope of life. I have to break here because you see through the story, and my hard, painful fall, finally finding hope, is largely why I'm here. I know the pit, and I've heard the lies, and it sucks. It sucks to feel alone. It sucks to feel the pain that screams for its reliable medication. But the tree has fallen. He has stepped into the pit to give solid ground. He's held me up when there was nothing else, and because of that tree, I'm not some petrified heart with nothing to bring to feed the family that longs for only what I can bring. I still feel the sucking at times, and that sucks. I'm a pastor. I'm a husband. I'm a dad of some beautiful kids, and it sucks that it sucks at me. I'm a new creation, but my flesh was trained for so long to go to a sure solution to its pain that I'm ashamed to say at times I still feel a longing for it. The path is different now. My heart's pain is poured out on the one who hung on the tree for me. And I have my head up enough to see others struggling near-death battles near me. And I know the tree is solid enough to push against and to break them free. The tar is clingy. It doesn't come off fast. I wish it did. At times it takes chunks of skin and hair as it's ripped off, but it does come off, and there's hope. So I want to pause for a moment and honor what's going on inside of you right now. Maybe you're squirming a little bit. I didn't know we were going to talk about this morning. I'm not liking this one bit. Okay. Don't run from it. Let that sit. Perhaps you're feeling confused. I didn't quite follow all of that, but there's something in there for me. I'm just not sure what. Okay, let that sit. And don't run from it. Maybe you're feeling a little hope. I'm a little known. Wow, someone has a story that's somewhat like mine. I wonder if there could be hope for me. Okay, let that sit and don't run from it. Maybe you feel like I do sometimes with other people's stories, and you're like, Steve says his story's not nice. He has no idea what not nice is. I've cheated. I've found people on Craigslist to hook up with. I've hurt people. Okay, let that sit. Don't run away from it. Moment of prayer. Lord, we ask you to allow our hearts to be right where they are. Moved, challenged, scared, aware. We ask you to help us know our hearts and to understand what it would be like to bring our whole hearts to you, and let us not run away. Amen. What causes shame to grow? Things you find in my story. Hiddenness, aloneness, lack of hope, lack of connection with others who might grieve with me or might offer wisdom. A belief that though God can and does do amazing things in other people's lives, however, somehow it's blocked in me. And it's probably because of me. Does that make sense to you? The very things that shame brings reinforces shame and causes it to grow. It's an insidious, self-perpetuating cycle. Shame produces the atmosphere that shame flourishes in. In other words, shame grows in an atmosphere of imprisoned love, extinguished hope, and non-functional faith. Here at Forge, we are declaring a war on shame. So I want to offer you the beginnings of a battle plan. Only a crazy person goes into battle without a plan. You want to know what you're up against. You want to know what the enemy's weapons are. You want to know what your weapons are. Train until the use of those weapons is second nature. Go, fight, and you will win. So what are we up against? Our battle is not against who we think. Our battle to be free of shame isn't against those we feel one down from. They shouldn't make me feel one down. They should be more accepting. It's really not that. It's not against the ones who've hurt us. They go on as if nothing's ever happened. I'm the one in pain every day. It's not even against God. How come you let this happen? Put me in that family. Didn't stop them. Didn't stop me. Our battle isn't there. That's the wrong battle. The Apostle Paul knows these battle lines. He offers the beginning of a plan in Ephesians 6. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. That's the battle. So Paul lays out the battle. It's against the schemes of the devil, he says in verse 11. And the Apostle John invites us to understand what the devil's battle plans are. In John 10:10, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. What does he want to steal, kill, and destroy? Through shame, we have observed he steals connection through isolation, kills hope by convincing us there's no way forward, and destroys faith operating at a personal level. It works for others, but not for me. Is it so surprising that shame, one of the main weapons the enemy of your heart uses, steals love, kills hope, and destroys faith? He wants you alone, disconnected, loveless. He wants you to try all the ideas you have and have them flop painfully. And for you to conclude with lots of data, there's no hope. He wants you to see other stories of hope, of change, of miracles, and of miraculous, courageous fights towards freedom and conclude, yeah, but not me. But no, the Apostle James understood this battle. He offers that grace is a part of the battle, and he offers hope. In James 4:6, he says, but he gives more grace. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace grace to the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Now there's hope. Resist and he'll flee. That's what I want Satan to flee. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Words of hope, words of power. It takes faith. It takes courage. But if I know how he's opposing me, I can resist him and he won't stay. He will flee. So how does James suggest I resist? He offers 4 dynamics that help us resist the devil and his schemes. Let's read a little bit farther in this passage. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord and he will exalt you. I want to note 4 dynamics of resisting the devil. 1, draw near to God. 2, cleanse your hands. 3, mourn well. 4, humble yourself. Wow, that's a mouthful. And it can feel impossible. How can I draw near to God when I'm pretty sure he's disgusted with me? How can I cleanse my hands when we all know I'm going back to the same behavior? I've tried that. How can I mourn? What is that anyway? I already feel bad. Horrible. And I'm supposed to purposely feel horribler? And humble myself. Yeah, that's a good plan. I'm convinced I'm one down, and that's your solution? Go one downer? Come on. So let's deal with some of these things. Let's understand these dynamics aren't natural. They're hard. They go against the defensive places our hearts line up when we're hurting, hopeless, and alone. But there's something Paul promises before we move into the specifics of those 4 dynamics of resisting, and that is grace, unmerited favor. Paul offers the promise that when we deal with the reality that there's probably some pride in that trapped place we find ourselves, pride that says, I've tried it all. Pride that says I'm beyond hope. Pride that says no one, least of all God, could accept me. And Paul says, offer up that pride. Live in reality. Your best thinking and plans have gotten you right where you are. Come on. Admit it. Your best plans and thinking kind of suck. Offer it up. Tell God you've been prideful and you're aware you can't do it on your own. You need him, his wisdom, his grace, his love, to hope to find a way forward. And you know what happens? He doesn't say, finally, and roll his eyes. He says, finally, and opens his arms. You get favor from him you didn't think you deserved. Grace. And with that grace, you're already starting on that first dynamic, drawing near to God. Dynamic 1, draw near to God. Dynamic 2, cleanse your hands. And here we have to lean into God's definition of sin and shame and guilt and conviction instead of what we want it to be. He says we're sinners, we've done wrong. And Brene Brown, her definition that Pete has referred to, guilt says I've done something wrong. Shame says I am something wrong. Brene notes that shame is not adaptive in that it doesn't actually help us find a way forward. Guilt, however, based on her research, does help because inherent in guilt is the reality that there's a preferred other path and a hope that we might be able to find it. So guilt is adaptive. Shame is maladaptive. It brings us to a place of huge confusion between these two because they both feel bad. But functionally, they're totally different. One is conviction. I'm convicted of my sin. The other is accusation. I'm accused of being identified by my sin. It's not a surprise that in Revelation, Satan is called the accuser of the brethren who accuses them before our God day and night in Revelations 12. The accuser accuses, and we have to grow in our awareness. We have to grow in our discernment. When am I being convicted and when am I being accused? And sometimes it's at the very same time, and it's our choice. One leads to life, the other leads to death. And then there's this little thing about grieving. Dynamic 1, draw near to God. Dynamic 2, cleanse your hands. Number 3, mourn well. Be wretched and mourn and weep. And that other verse with it. But let's understand there's a difference between sorrow that God invites us into and sorrow that the accuser invites us into. God invites us down a path of life. Satan to a sentence of death. Paul lays out in 2 Corinthians 7, godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation. Translate, it's adaptive, it leads to hope. And it leaves no regret, but worldly sorrow brings death. And then he illustrates the effect of godly sorrow. What earnestness, what eagerness to cleanse oneself, what indignation, what alarm, what longing, what concern, what readiness to see justice done. And Luke illustrates this with a story about a short tax collector. Picture Danny DeVito as Zacchaeus. He sees Jesus. He's convicted. He experiences God's sorrow. Jesus moves towards him. I'll be with you tonight. I'm coming to your house to eat. You're not too dirty. And Zacchaeus says, I give half my goods to the poor. And if I've defrauded anyone, I'll restore 4 times what I took. That's not hiding. That's not shame. It's guilt providing a path forward. It's conviction leading the way to a different path. It's godly sorrow, earnestness and heartfelt awareness, eagerness to cleanse himself, indignation at his selfishness, alarm that he did it, longing to make it right, concern for the people that he hurt. What readiness to see justice done, godly sorrow. Notice that it changes how he thinks, how he feels, and what he does. So mourn well. Don't run away from godly sorrow. So we have 4 dynamics. Draw near to God, cleanse your hands, mourn well, and the 4th one, humble yourself, which is where we started. And notice that this is a cycle. This is a godly growth cycle called sanctification, which, if we laid it out differently or cut it up differently, looks an awful lot like a number of the recovery principles that AA and other recovery groups lay out. So this is all well and good. So where do I start? Start where you are. Is there a safe person who is mature enough to handle you being real with them and won't likely purposefully shame you, who you can talk to about your shame? Who is that? Is it somebody at the table this morning? Is it a buddy at work, in your church? Let them know. Maybe your shame is like mine. Maybe it's like somebody else's. Move into it. I've been part of a sexual addictions recovery group for the last 12 years. We're taking a pause right now and meeting individually with some people, and we're going to be starting it again in about a month. Let me know if that's something that you need. It's not about figuring out exactly what the right step is. It's about understanding you're not alone in your shame unless you choose to be. So choose not to be. Start to engage in your own war on shame. Let's pray. Shame right now wants in me to make today about what people think of me. Lord, I choose freedom from that shame. Today is about you, about what you're doing in our hearts, each of our hearts here today. I ask you, God, to allow us to move into the grace that you offer. Today is about you, about your love for me, and about each person who hears this. Let our hearts rest in you. Amen.
If you're like me, I'm going to go back and listen to this video today because there's so much there. And maybe it connected with you at a particular point and you want to go back and get some more of the detail. I encourage you to do that. I want to welcome you guys that are with us for the first time today. We're glad you're here, and we hope you'll come back and bring some guys with us, with you. A couple of announcements just by way of people stuff. AJ is back and married. Let's give it up. Back from the honeymoon. Life is good. Amen. Good to have you. And my friend John Riley, where is John? Right there. John has been a founding member of Forge and a friend for a long time and a supporter of Forge. But he's one of those guys in Orlando that has had a long-term ministry with guys. I can't tell you the number of guys I've said, young businessmen, I've said, you need to go to talk to John Riley about your business. And John graciously, as a busy businessman, opened up his time. And this year he was honored as the Lifeway Leadership Alumni of the Year in an amazing ceremony. And I want to give it up for you, John. Thank you for your ministry. Really, really embodies iron sharpens iron, that we are here for other people, and you guys are, and I'm so glad you're here. A couple of announcements. Let's see. Next 2 weeks, we are off. If you have a vacation planned for weeks after that, then what you need to do is just move it up. Take the next 2 weeks because you don't want to miss Forge. We're going to be off end of June, first week of July, which 4th of July weekend. Make sure you're online and you get our e-blast, forgetruth.com. Sign up for our e-blast. We'll have a brand new series starting in July. We go throughout the whole year. It's just a couple of weeks a year that we're off. And so plan to be with us there. A couple of the Forge essentials. Number one, bring a friend or an enemy. Some of you guys wonder why you're here, why you got badgered to death. It's because we badger them, all these guys, every week to bring a friend. And so bring a friend or an enemy. Teach something you learned. Pass on one thing you learned today. And because what we teach, we learn in a deeper way. Become a partner. Go to forgetruth.com. Become a partner. We've got 61 partners. We're looking for 100 for the end of the year. That keeps us going around town. By the way, Steve is in our downtown group who spoke today, helping us build that downtown section with H2O Church. And so you guys are enabling us to move around the city. Pray for our vision. Scripture of the series is Philippians. Whatever is true, Philippians 4, 8, and 9, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, let your mind dwell on these things. So I encourage you to do that. Memorize that. I just want to wrap up and get you out of here with prayer, but I want to tell you that this story that Steve told, did you get the feel of how challenging it was for him to tell his story in front of other guys? We guys so often live in isolation. How you doing? Fine. So many of us have come to understand that the gospel sets us free. That nothing in our story keeps us from moving ahead into biblical manhood as God defines manhood. That so many men, as I was saying the other day, you can grow old and not grow up. And so many guys do that. Yesterday, my cousin was in town. He's the oldest cousin of our, and I've told my story before you guys that my family put the D in dysfunction. My extended family put the D in dysfunction, and but this cousin is the oldest cousin in my family. I'm the youngest cousin in our family. Scary, isn't it? He's the oldest cousin who I always wanted to know because he was at the top of the pot. He was an attorney with Bank of America, made it successful. And then yesterday he's in town, and I had lunch with he and his wife, and we finally got I said, tell me what happened. Because I know that his mother, like my mother, went through a divorce, and that every one of my cousins went through a divorce. He told me his story. 3 divorces he went through. Center of a custody case. Suffered in silence, and I thought he hung the moon. His story was way worse than mine. But the gospel has given him freedom and hope. And he's built him into a man that I didn't know that he'd become. And he is a lay leader in a church in San Francisco that's influencing hundreds and thousands of people. And I'm so thankful. Because the gospel builds great men and sets us free. You're that. Let's go after the other guys. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, how I thank you for the opportunity to be your man at this point in history. Would you be with my brothers? Would you, as they go out today, feeling sometimes like they're sinking in the pits, would you, Lord Jesus, be the strong tree upon which they stand? May you enable us to find your grace is what is renewing every day. And may we be able, as men, to extend that grace to other men we meet, those guys who are sinking. Lord, may we be able to hand them the life preserver of your grace. Be with us now. Thank you for your grace and for the freedom that we have in Jesus, for we pray in his holy name. Amen. Guys, have a great couple of weeks. See you soon.